Thank you so much, Kristen, for joining me on the Sami Parvez show. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Sammy.
Yeah, okay. So let's begin. Could you please tell me, like, why you decided to put your name on this election?
Well, to be honest, my political journey kind of started back in 2021 with the federal election. I went to be a scrutineer and ended up, kind of being taken under the wing of somebody who has a lot of political experience. She's actually our riding association president in Niagara Falls
Mm-hmm.
for New Blue. And she immediately was asking me to run for municipal politics. And I was like, whoa, what are we talking about here? I've just scrutineered. And then from there, I started volunteering with the PPC. I was on the Riding Association. I started being active in that environment. And then I met Jim, tried to help find candidates. For the last election, I thought I had someone that was willing to run.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, I was unintentionally starting to perform duties that you would perform as, like a regional organizer. So
Mm-hmm.
he trained me and away we went. And I became a part of New Blue.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a feeling this election I would end up running as an MPP. I did run in the municipal elections as well for a
Mm-hmm.
councillor. So yes.
Okay.
So it's just been
Mm-hmm.
a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. Okay. So right now, like we see, like Senate election has been called by Doug Ford, like we know, like for his own job rather than like saving Ontarians from Trump's tariff. So what do you take? Like how much are you prepared, or your party is prepared to fight this election?
Well, it's a lot more difficult this time around because it's such short time period, right? We
Mm-hmm.
had an idea that it was happening. We had an idea, that it would be within a span of a few months. And I know that there was a lot of prep work being done behind the scenes, trying to just get things in order for if they called it at, in January or February, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was incredibly short notice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been very hectic this time around. But you know what? We banded together as a team and, we helped some people get some signatures. We went out with them. We were,
Mm-hmm.
out there door to door as we, we're grassroots.
Yep.
So that's what we do, right? Door to door.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was a fun journey, but also
Mm-hmm.
very stressful. But we got 108 candidates
Yep.
on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's phenomenal. So, yeah.
Okay. Yep. And could you please describe, like, how many supporters do you have, and how many doors, if you would like to knock so far, if you would like to share, and what responses do you get when you go like door knocking?
Um, so as far as the number of supporters, I don't know like across the whole New Blue, like all the way across the province. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know like the support is strong.
Mm-hmm.
The people that believe in the party and that believe in Jim and Belinda,
Mm-hmm.
they have a very good reason to do so. And it's
Yep.
part of why I'm involved too,
Mm-hmm.
because what you see is what you get.
Yep.
When you see Jim in an interview or on the stage, when you talk to him face to face, he's the same person. That's just it,
Mm-hmm.
they are who they are, and I
Yep.
love that about them.
Mm-hmm.
Transparent, and I respect them a lot. Um, but depending on the riding, I think depends on how much support there is. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've gone around. It's been much easier this time around in terms of being able to go out and get things started, to find volunteers, to, you know, get sign locations, to get donations. There's more of a base than there was last time, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing door to door, it's wonderful this time. I'm finding more and more people are saying, "Oh, the New Blue Party. Yeah, I've heard of you." Where last time, almost everybody, it was, no, don't, I've never heard of you. Tell me about it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So it's probably at least a 30% increase in the number of people that are like, yeah, I've heard about you. So it's really nice to hear that because it tells me we're doing something right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also see your signs outside, like in Kitchener or Cambridge or in Golf. And I also had interview with new Blue Party leader Jim last week, and it seems like it's something new happening in Ontario. But it's a great movement, and so so now we also have some many challenges, like the Ontarians are suffering from the cost of living to healthcare and other issues too. But I know like no one is covering up this issue. I'm bringing it up. Like wage theft is happening in Ontario and in Canada. I'm not sure if you are did particularly simplify supply chain solutions or there is another duchies uh, food market, and there could be some other restaurant I'm hearing. So it means people are working there, but they are not being paid, and the employers just whether on cash people are working or just I don't know like what's happening here. Like I need to know like if you get elected or do you have any plan to tackle down this wage theft? Like someone told me that it mean you worked in Dutchies. I don't know like you worked for 3 or 6 months, but they owe him like $3,000. He told me like about his story. Then he said that this is Canada. As a Canadian, I'm ashamed, like somebody says that this is Canada and how things work here, that a employer does not pay to worker, and we have great rules and regulation. Like the books are full of this. If you study this Ontario labor law, so we have bunch of in the books, but they are not being practically implemented at the workplace. So I need to know like what would you do differently as an elected official to tackle it down.
Yeah, so I was actually looking into that because you had mentioned that you wanted to discuss it. And, I did see he was even not paying his suppliers,
Mm-hmm.
which is bad. And I personally believe there should be some kind of legislation in place that if somebody um has done that and there's a history of that and it can be proven in court, that they should be banned from owning a business at
Mm-hmm.
least for a period of time, and maybe like after that period of time they have to go through a course in order to get back up and running. um there could be something like that. I know. I did listen to your interview with Jim,
Yep.
and I really respected his answer that they can make it easier for
Mm-hmm.
the employees
Yep.
to be able to sue
Mm-hmm.
the employer, because if you've already experienced wage theft, then you're already experiencing some financial hardship likely. And so when they make the law so complicated, then it's going to cost you more money, right? Because lawyers aren't cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So I did really respect that answer, that we can maybe reform the laws surrounding the employees and what they're able to do in terms of like repercussions for the employer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you are right. Like change the law and make it more easier to sue the employer. And also, like I like appreciate the comment. Like these like businesses should be these businesses should be shut down and the employer should not able to continue its business, but these employers, many others are continuing their businesses. But it seems like I don't know, like we don't have lack of laws, but no one is implementing them. Like okay,
Right.
let yeah,
And
please go ahead.
with the employers though, like, I mean, I don't think that it should just be like, okay, we think this is happening and you should be shut down. I mean, it should be proven in a court of law
Hmm.
that they've done it, right? And
Yep.
then from there, if it's proven in a court of law, there should be a punishment for it that
Mm-hmm.
entails, not being able to do it again,
Yep.
um, at least for a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
and having to be re-educated. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there
Yeah.
needs to be accountability.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so, like, we have rise of cost, every price is up, like if you go like in a grocery store, like you could get a milk like a 4 liter, like it was just I think around $4. Now it went up to like $6. Eggs are very expensive. If you go on, like there could be like, everything is expensive, even though now I have noticed bananas were like per pound it was 57 or 58 cent. Now it would jump to 69 cent. So it means
Yeah.
everything is going up, but we see like our government, like particularly which was in under Doug Ford for 7 years, they did not do anything other than they just sent a $200 our money to us, like you need to take it, and it may help you out. It does not help us out at all. Like it means if you go for grocery, you for 1 week maybe it could cost more than $200. So do you have any plan, or would you like to share your ideas, like how to tackle down the cost of living?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things that kind of come to mind when you're talking about that, the eggs and the milk and things like that. So we're under attack from health organizations right
Mhm.
now, as I'm sure you're aware. Um, Things like this bird flu scare and things like that, and even previously there were a lot of, I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of suspicious things happen all at the same time, and it's like consistently the same thing happens over and
Yep.
over and over and over, and then 6 months later it's a new thing that happens over and over and over, and one of those
Hmm.
was the burning down of the chicken farms.
Yep.
And now we've got, well, now the chickens need to be culled because of the bird flu, when really
Mm.
none of them have tested positive, and the two that did were quarantined months ago.
Yep.
And if it's highly contagious and none of them have them, then why are we killing all of the chickens? And now our prices are going up. So that's one side of the food prices that, that's one of our policies too, is to get the WHO out
Hmm.
of our healthcare system,
Yep.
right? They shouldn't have the control that they have. um, and so that's one side of the food costs, but also cost of living in general, right? Our real estate is out of control. um, uh, Pretty much everything, with the minimum wage being put up to help with living costs. Well, now small businesses are having to raise their prices in order to compete. Well, they can't compete with these big guys. And it's like this vicious cycle of, okay, let's the rich get richer, and the rest of us kind of just suffer.
Hmm.
um so I think that it really comes down to our policy on HST. Also, if we can lower that HST and keep that 3%, so from 13 to 10% is a starting point, and
Hmm.
you keep that 3% in the pockets of Canadians, and that in the end makes a difference, right? And I don't know if you noticed, while they took away the HST
Yep.
recently, all the
Hmm.
prices went up.
Yep.
It was like this sneaky way of putting up the prices so that nobody noticed. But really, if you're paying attention, oh, wait, because it's coming back,
Hmm.
and your prices are going to be higher.
Yep.
So I just feel like they're just taxing us and taxing us and taxing us. The average Canadian, the average Ontarian takes home what, like 55% of their wages? That's ridiculous. So there needs to be some changes on that. Income tax was intended for during the wartime, and it was supposed to be temporary, and it just keeps rising and rising. And then we've got the carbon tax,
Hmm.
which is making everything more expensive as well.
Yep.
So that needs to be scrapped. That
Hmm.
carbon tax provincially needs to be scrapped, and that's something that I will definitely be fighting for.
Hmm. Yeah, you made a good point with respect to reducing the HST, and we saw like right now this tax holiday. I think nothing went to on sale. Like usually if you see like once in a month, like if you go a grocery store like Food Basic or Freshco or Walmart or Real Canadian Superstore, something goes on sale. But during this time, we did not see anything on sale just because of like the HST were off. So it seems like they are playing a game. I don't think like Canadians got enough like from these uh, like tax holidays or whatever you call them. And even though that was for Christmas, like everyone purchased their things before a month for preparing the Christmas. So I don't know, like, so what would you say more about this if you want to?
Well, I think part of the other problem is that because of the way that our system is and because of the way our economy is, people are having to carry two, three, four jobs just to make their ends meet. They have children that don't have a parent at home giving them the education that they need within the home. It's giving the education system room
Mm,
to take control. There's repercussions for all of it, right?
yep.
And I think people are so busy trying to make a buck that they're not seeing what the government is up to, and they're so blinded because they come home, they're tired, they turn on the TV. They
Mm-hmm.
call it programming for a reason, right? So, I mean, it's just this vicious cycle of okay, they traumatize people by overworking them, and then they feed them full of propaganda, and they've blinded them to the fact that the government is just taking them for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
If they would not take so many taxes, people wouldn't have to work so hard to make the same amount of money, and they would have more time for their families. They would have more time to build up, to cook at home. Eating out is a big issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people
Mm-hmm.
aren't eating healthy food.
Yep.
They're not there, and it's this vicious cycle of they get sick, they work, they can't afford not to work, and then they have to eat out again,
Mm-hmm.
and then their kids are suffering, and the family unit breaks apart. And that's exactly what the government wants, because that's the best way to keep us all under control and keep us all, working hard and not paying attention to what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yep.
that's got a lot to do with where our economy has gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So let's jump to another topic. Healthcare. It seems like most of the Ontarians, I'm not sure, but what would be the percentage? But majority of them, I think, don't have a family doctor. So what should be done to make sure that every Ontarian should have a family doctor?
So we have a lot of healthcare professionals that are currently unemployed. As you know, during COVID,
Yep.
once the vaccine mandates came out, many people were let go from their positions, especially nurses. But there were doctors and radiologists and all of these people with experience and expertise, some of them 20, 30 years of experience. And they're sitting over, working at a McDonald's.
Yep.
There's PhDs working at McDonald's right now because they have to do something. And it's because of the vaccine mandates, and those need to be done. There are still some lingering around in our governments and in our school systems and colleges, universities, etc. And those need to come to an end, and they need to hire back the doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals. Get rid of that backlog. We've got we've got people waiting 8 months to a year for CAT scans, MRIs,
Mm-hmm.
ultrasounds.
Yep.
There's people dying in on a waiting list. There was an article in the National Post that reported it was 17,000 plus people
Yep.
died across the country in 1 year from in 2024, and they estimate that only half of those got reported because the Freedom of Information Act only did about 62% of the population. So they estimated at actually 28,000 people that died on a waiting list for
Wow.
healthcare, and that's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, a friend of mine she sent me an email and shared a story with me. She was pregnant and quite a bit far along. She did not get vaccinated. and she felt very like it, very much prejudiced against in the healthcare system. They were pushing her off, brushing off her concerns, telling her, oh, well, you can wait, you can wait, you can wait. And it was only after she said she wasn't vaccinated that she was getting this treatment. Well, she knew something was wrong with her pregnancy. And she said to she called the clinic. She says, something's wrong. I need an ultrasound. Oh, we'll put you on a waiting list. 8 weeks.
Wow.
A pregnant woman that said something was wrong, 8 weeks. By the time she got in for that ultrasound, her baby was dead. So these are the things that we're looking at. So we need to get those doctors and nurses back. And also, um, there was another point I was going to make, Sami. Maybe it'll come to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also like we see like when like these international student or professional people, like from foreign countries come here in Canada and particularly in Ontario, they are not allowed to practice because I don't know, like they went through lots of process. Don't you think it is necessary to make some changes and make it more flexible for those profession like doctors or nurses or other healthcare profession or other professionals to practice here in Canada or particularly in Ontario?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to look into. I don't know a lot around the legislation, oh, I can't hear you, Sami.
Yeah. Okay. So can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know a lot. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. In terms of the regulations surrounding external doctors coming in and working, I don't know a lot about the regulation surrounding that, but I mean it would be worth looking into. I don't know what kind of hoops they have to jump through at this point. Um, but I mean, to get through that backlog, we have to do something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but I know that there are tests and things that they
Yep.
can go through.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps they can get right into a residency.
Yep.
I don't know what would be realistic in order to do that, but it's just the whole situation. Oh, and the other thing that we can do, Sami, there's we need to have new facilities opened up with X-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds, all of these scans, all these radiology type items. Okay. If we can get even that started up right now, where you open new private facilities, where if somebody wants to go and pay to have a scan done that they're waiting 8 months for, let them go and pay for it because it's going to take them out of the backlog. And then
Mm-hmm.
people who rely on OHIP will have that opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
go and get OHIP faster. And then if you have space for scheduling in these private locations, then they can even relieve some of the backlog as well and start filling their gaps
Mm-hmm.
with people that are on that waiting list. So there has to be better solutions there. And that in turn, by freeing up those doctors, by freeing up that space, by getting rid of that waiting list, that's going to free up doctors to be able to start taking patients again.
Mm-hmm. You mean like we need to like let the private health, like there should not be a private healthcare system, but like but there should be some private institution, like those who should work.
Yes.
Then the government should reimburse to those Ontarians or taxpayer, right?
No, they don't. It's if you want to pay for it, you pay for it. It's out of your pocket. You can claim it on your taxes, right? But if you don't want to wait for OHIP,
Mm-hmm.
then you go to these private facilities, you pay for it, right? You might get a tax break on it, but you're still going to pay for it. But you should have that option,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's going to start just alleviating that heavy backlog on the
Mm-hmm.
system.
Yep.
People are going to not have to wait so long for these life-saving diagnoses. They're going to be able to get through our system faster. And I'm not saying that the whole thing should be privatized. I don't want anyone to hear
Yeah.
me wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
a partially privatized system. If
Yep.
you want to pay, pay. If you can't pay, don't worry about it. It's still covered.
Mm-hmm.
We need to start looking into that. That needs to start being an option for people.
Mm-hmm. And we always have a lack of like healthcare, like healthcare people, or healthcare facilities, or like shortage of doctor, if you say it, anything with respect to healthcare. So, don't you think there should be a mechanism like to encourage the Canadian citizen who are living here in Canada or in Ontario, who are born here, to encourage them to go to move toward in healthcare? So mostly, if we see like we need like foreign citizen to come here, so shouldn't there be something mechanism or encouraging or tax relief or something should be done for them to get in this field?
Yeah, I mean, it's something, again, I don't know what the system looks like right now. I do know that Doug Ford is spending millions of dollars to educate nurses right now, which sounds really great, right? Except, why are we putting the money there when we have nurses with 20 years experience that are sitting at home unemployed?
Hmm.
That's and again, if we bring back everybody that got fired because of COVID, then we can reassess at that time and see kind of where that leaves us and what kind of gap we still have. Because do will we still have a gap if we do that? Or will that kind of make things level out? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so let's jump to another topic now. Let's talk about housing crisis and homelessness. So, how do you see like what causes the homelessness?
Well, we have a lot of mental health issues, drug issues, and the drug issues are only getting worse with the safe injection sites. They're not very safe. I know that since we've been seeing them come into communities, we're seeing more and more needles left everywhere. um, I have friends. I've joined them a couple of times. We go out and we clean up all the needles. We shouldn't have to do that. That shouldn't be an issue. um, there needs to be better systems in place for our mental health. I know that there's a huge waiting list, especially in Niagara. Niagara is one of the worst. Especially St. Catherine's Hospital, they'll turn away people that come in that are suicidal.
Wow.
I had a friend that was turned away that tried to jump off of a bridge. Luckily, we got to him in time, and we were able to talk him down. But I mean, this is the kind of thing that's happening, and mental health decline also results in not being able to hold down a steady job, which results in not having enough money to live. And on top of that, now we've got higher costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So someone who's on ODSP or any other form of assistance where they can't work, all of a sudden, or even our seniors, uh, we've got refugees that are coming. And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with having refugees come
Yep.
in, but the sheer number that are coming in, and they're put up in an apartment. They're given,
It's
$2,000 a month on top of their place to live.
yep.
And then we have seniors that are getting $1,100 a month that worked their whole life in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just there's a real lack of balance. And then on top of that, I had a friend who was going to be homeless because of his health, and he was on ODSP. His place was being sold. He couldn't afford a different place. He knew that he would be dead if he was on the streets. They would kill him, right? They would
Yep.
take his medication and they would kill him. He was going to go through the MAID program. He got approved for the MAID program
Wow.
to be euthanized instead of going and being homeless. So is that our solution for everything now? It can't be. Like, we need changes in mental health. We need to get the housing system under control. We need reform in the Landlord Tenant Act for both sides. It needs to be easier for landlords to get rid of tenants that are destroying their property or not paying the rent, and it needs to be easier for tenants to get maintenance done from landlords that are denying the maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be reform on both sides of that.
Yep.
If we started tackling these things, and on top of that, cutting back on those taxes and giving people a bit of a break, we're going to see a lot less homelessness because people are going to want to work. People are going to want to be an active part of society.
Yeah, sorry to hear about your friends. Uh, so,
Thank you.
what plan do you have, or what plans do your party is like with respect to tackling the uh, housing crisis or homelessness?
Um, it's such a hard situation right now. So for the homelessness issue, I mean, it's getting pretty far gone. Um, but I don't know the entire situation. Immigration is majorly a federal issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little bit outside of the jurisdiction of what I can really speak on in terms of that. But I know that there was such an influx of numbers of people that came in recently,
Yep.
and we already have a housing shortage. So the more people that we bring in, logically, the less housing that we have, right? And with COVID and the like wages haven't gone up with the cost of living,
Yep.
but rental costs are going up, interest rates are going up. It's expensive to even rent a place anymore. It's expensive to buy a place. So a lot of people are left with no option. So I think the major thing is we need to make sure that even small towns are getting shelters put in place to begin with. But in those shelters, there needs to be more help. These shelters that we have, it's amazing what these people do. I admire them. I it's a tough job to have, but if we can get more counseling and more courses into these shelters to help people with money management, to help them to get, some skills under their belt, to do, courses with them that are basic courses,
Mm-hmm.
just to help them get on their feet a little bit,
Yep.
get a little bit of knowledge, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I think that that would make a huge difference.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. Like I did not mention it that I this will be discussed. So, do you support a basic income for Ontarians? I know, like I think, like Green Party proposed this one. I don't know, like other about other parties.
So, no, I don't. Uh, and the reason that I say no is because if somebody needs help, if somebody needs ODSP, they have a disability, they can't afford to live their life and they can't live a normal life, then there is assistance for them. Okay, we've provided that assistance. Look at what happened during COVID.
Yep.
We offered this basic income, right? Essentially a UBI, a universal basic income, and what happened? Nobody wanted to work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can't that's to me that's a communist nation in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a dictator who has all of the money and decides how much money you get? No. If you want to make money, you go work hard, you go get an education, you go do your thing, and and we take care of each other, right? I mean, we have to also go back to value God values, right? God morals, because we have to love each other. We're all Most of us are a bad paycheck away from being on the streets ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
when someone's hungry, feed them. If you've got a few extra bucks, feed them, buy them a coffee. Let's start helping each other, and let's start, you know, just caring about each other and working hard and whatever uh, you know, if you're able to do the work, then do the work. I don't think there should be a universal basic income. It creates a placid society where everybody just kind of exists and people aren't happy. People need purpose. People need purpose. I think if you see a UBI come in, you're going to see a lot more depression and suicide.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. I think that was more than enough. Like whatever you shared. So I need to ask you, what's your message to particularly to your constituents like Flamborough, Glanbrook, where you are running as MPP. So what's your message to that constituents residents?
So, I don't know if you had a chance to look at my writing, but I have a lot of farmland, and I love it. There's we have a few issues in our farmland right now, the farmland and the green belt, and they're called minister zoning orders. Have you heard of those?
Not really. I did not follow. No.
So that's okay. MZOs, minister zoning orders, and basically they've been around for decades. And it gives the provincial government the right to go in to an area where they're having trouble getting zoning done in an emergency situation where they need to get something built quickly,
Yep.
so that they can kind of override the zoning and get it started, get the building happening, right? There was very few being used at all before Doug Ford. Now we're looking at, 20, 30 a year instead of, two or three over 4 years. So it's increased exponentially. And he's now he never protected the green belt. He said he was going to protect the green belt. He hasn't protected the green belt. He's using these MZOs to pave the green belt
Mhm.
and to build on it. And now he's doing it to farmland as well. We have 3.2% of our farmland that can grow crops, and it's just over 4% that can be used as pasture for animals. So now we're bringing in all these extra people and we're paving over our farmland that's supposed to feed them.
Mhm.
So it's it's a little bit crazy. So that's one thing is the MZOs need to be taken care of. That's not a way to build sustainably, nor is it a responsible way to build. Because without our green space and without our farmland, we're in big trouble. Um, and the other thing is the windmills, the wind turbines. They are quickly taking over our landscape, and there's articles. I'm trying to remember the name of the article off the top of my head, but there was a lot of health issues being reported, uh, nausea, headaches, cognitive and psychological issues, all these different things, to a point they were being reported so heavily that in 2016, when all these were going up, the minister of the environment actually um, ordered that they stop. They stopped the production of these wind turbines, and the courts overruled it. So the courts overruled it, and now people have been forced to leave their homes. So that's another big issue because they take a lot of energy and a lot of diesel vehicles to get stuff there. Sometimes they have to create service roads. There's a lot that goes into building these turbines, and they only have about a 25-year lifespan,
Mhm.
and the majority of it is not recyclable. So where does that go in the end? Into a landfill? Well, then we're really going to have a big problem.
Mhm.
So, and we sell that energy to the United States for pennies on the dollar. And when we need it back, we pay extra for it. So, is it really benefiting us to have them? Not really. So,
Okay, okay. I will leave it here, and I always ask my audience one question, particularly who are running for office. Like you are running for office right now as MPP, and it is more reach. You are more reachable to appear on the Sami Parvez show. Can you please comment, like, if you get elected in this upcoming election, so will you be appearing again on the Sami Parvez show, or giving interviews to other independent journalists like myself?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I thank you for having me on today. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate what you're doing, and it's important to talk about these issues. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure once again, Christine. Thank you so much, and wishing you very best on this election, and looking forward to seeing you the next MPP.
Thank you very much, Sammy.
Yeah, my pleasure. You take care and have a good night.
You too. Have a wonderful night.
You as well. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.